white-haired woman with purple eyes, identified as Lyria Eros Wistaria, looks forward pensively, amidst falling pink petals in a bustling street scene. In a bustling crowd, a brown-haired man exclaims in shock, "Whoa, it's the Grand Duke!" As Lyria, now with white hair and wearing a dark cloak over a green dress, stands discreetly in the background. A dark-haired man in a military uniform rides a white horse through the city, with a second white horse following. The dark-haired man on the white horse rides past a crowd of people, his cape flowing. A close-up focuses on the dark-haired man's lustrous black hair. A close-up reveals the dark-haired man's handsome, intelligent features and golden eyes. Lyria, with white hair and purple eyes, looks up in distress, recognizing the person who appeared before her eyes as Anthem Isaac Vergerhines. Lyria, with white hair, hides nervously behind a light brown-haired man, hoping Anthem doesn't notice her. Anthem, the dark-haired man, rides his white horse through the street, holding the reins. Lyria, in her hood, wonders why Anthem stopped and if he noticed her amidst the crowd. Lyria thinks it is impossible for Anthem to notice her from a distance, as he rides his white horse through the crowded street with a red-haired man. The red-haired man asks Anthem if something is wrong, to which Anthem replies that it's nothing. Lyria, in her dark hood, reflects on the profound coincidence of seeing Anthem again after believing she would never encounter him in the vast empire. A series of panels show Anthem dramatically leaping from his white horse, holding white roses, while Lyria, also surrounded by roses, blushes as she looks away. A golden frame announces a flashback, 9 years ago, over a bright scene of a grand castle surrounded by lush gardens. A young Lyria, with long pink hair and wearing a white dress, sits gracefully in a vibrant garden, engrossed in a book. Lyria looks up, surprised, as someone calls out her name. A light brown-haired man in a military uniform walks towards Lyria in the garden, calling her name. Lyria smiles brightly, calling the light brown-haired man Father. The light brown-haired man, identified as Kaisak Eros Wistaria, smiles warmly, stating he has found Lyria. Kaisak tells Lyria that the lilac flowers were beautiful, and she confirms her love for plants. Lyria, with a joyous expression, enthusiastically confirms yes to her father. A timid Lyria hides behind her father Kaisak's legs as a dark-haired boy stands nearby. A split panel shows Lyria looking nervously up at her father while the dark-haired boy stands with a calm, focused expression. Kaisak introduces Lyria to Anthem Isaac Vergerhines, mentioning he is 16 and a little older than her. Kaisak announces to a wide-eyed Lyria that Anthem is her fiancé. Huh? Anthem stands at a distance while Lyria and Kaisak converse in the garden. Lyria looks over her shoulder at her father Kaisak, appearing worried. Anthem Isaac Vergerhines, the dark-haired boy, formally introduces himself, stating, "It's a pleasure to meet Lyria for the first time." Kaisak encourages a hesitant Lyria to greet Anthem. Lyria bows, timidly introducing herself as Lyria Eros Wistaria. Kaisak reassures a frightened Lyria that Anthem is not going to harm her. Kaisak chastises Anthem, asking if he can at least crack a smile and not scare his daughter. Kaisak explains to Lyria that Anthem is a good, honest, and trustworthy man, despite being a bit unsociable. Kaisak praises Anthem as an exceptionally talented man. Kaisak tells Lyria that Anthem will protect her and encourages her to try and get along with him, to which she quietly agrees. Lyria and Anthem stand facing each other, looking somewhat awkward amidst the blooming flowers. Anthem explains to Kaisak that his murderous aura is an unintentional bad habit from spending too much time on the battlefield. Anthem assures Lyria that he doesn't mean to scare her and asks her to tell him if she ever feels afraid, reminding her that he is her fiancé. Anthem kneels slightly, expressing his desire for them to have a great relationship. Lyria thinks about Anthem's large hand, different from her father's. Anthem kneels before Lyria as Kaisak watches, and the scene is described as being enveloped in the gentle scent of lilacs. Lyria and Anthem, now older, stand silhouetted against a grand window at night, with a caption stating they vanished into the calm night. A map of the Lyzand Empire is displayed, highlighting it as a great empire with immense power among surrounding nations. Text describes the Lyzand Empire as a country where wars and rebellions were constant occurrences. Kizak, Lyria's father, is depicted on horseback in full military regalia, identified as holding the position of Grand General. Kizak embraces Lyria, apologizing for leaving her alone, but she reassures him that she's fine as long as he returns safely. Kizak holds a crying Lyria kneeling, and text reveals that Lyria's mother died of illness shortly after she was born. Lord Anthem approaches Lyria, who is sitting on a bench drawing, and softly calls her name. Lyria happily greets Lord Anthem, acknowledging his visit despite his busy schedule. Lyria enthusiastically accepts something from Lord Anthem, as they sit together on a sunlit bench. Lyria casts a nervous, shy glance, her cheeks flushing slightly. Lyria tentatively addresses Lord Anthem, who responds with a questioning sound. Lyria hesitates, bringing up Lord Anthem's hand, prompting him to ask if there's an issue with it. Lord Anthem questions Lyria as she fidgets nervously while holding his hand. Lord Anthem softly asks Lyria if she will apply something for him, startling her. Lord Anthem and Lyria share a quiet moment, sitting on the bench and holding hands. Lyria gently applies wound medicine she created to Lord Anthem's hand, explaining its effectiveness to his surprised inquiry about her making it. Lyria brightly reassures Lord Anthem about her homemade medicine, mentioning its popularity among handmaidens as he observes her. Lyria tenderly holds Lord Anthem's hand, reflecting on his protective nature. Lyria quickly apologizes to Lord Anthem for her potentially presumptuous remark. Lord Anthem quickly stands up, dismissing Lyria's concerned inquiry. Lyria urgently offers Lord Anthem a small item, asking him to take it with him. Lyria explains that the small item, likely medicine, may not be for battle but could offer comfort. Lord Anthem accepts the small container, promising Lyria he will use it carefully. Lyria looks flustered and surprised. Lord Anthem, with a faint smile, thanks Lyria. Lord Anthem reflects on his hands, implying Lyria's gesture has changed his perception of them. Lord Anthem expresses hope for another meeting and wishes Lyria to be safe as the scene focuses on the grand estate. The scene shifts to a church, with narration explaining Duke Kizak hastened to marriage due to worry. A flashback shows 14-year-old Lyria marrying Lord Anthem as they walk away in their wedding attire. Lord Anthem apologizes for the simple wedding and lack of rings, but Lyria reassures him it's fine. Lyria expresses her deep happiness to Lord Anthem, stating that his busy presence at the ceremony is more than enough for her. Lord Anthem gazes at Lyria with a serious, thoughtful expression during their wedding. Lyria radiates happiness, cherishing the moment of becoming Lord Anthem's wife. Lyria asks Lord Anthem if they can spend the whole day together, to which he agrees, emphasizing today especially. A brown-haired man in uniform bursts in urgently, calling out to Lord Anthem, interrupting the wedding and shocking the couple. Lyria reassures Lord Anthem, asking him not to worry about her. Lord Anthem, with a worried look at Lyria, abruptly asks for an update on the battle status. Lyria softly calls out to Lord Anthem as he runs away with another man. Lyria sadly reflects that she cannot be a burden to Lord Anthem. Lyria's face is etched with deep sorrow and tears. Lord Anthem calls out to Lyria, promising to return soon as he runs away. Lord Anthem departs, looking back at Lyria, who stands alone after their interrupted wedding. Lord Anthem offers a faint, determined smile. Lord Anthem tenderly kisses Lyria's hand amidst the wedding decor. The scene shifts to a bleak mansion, with narration stating Lyria was alone without Lord Anthem's presence. A brown-haired maid complains about Lyria's persistent offers to help, wearing her out. The maids mock Lyria, suggesting she is too childish for work, as she looks distressed. Lyria weeps silently, holding back her emotions. Lyria smiles brightly and confidently, surrounded by several respectful maids, signifying a change in her status or demeanor. Lord Anthem announces his return to the mansion. Lyria offers to take Lord Anthem's coat, and he thanks her. Lyria and Lord Anthem share a happy moment, cherishing their time together, given his infrequent visits home. Lyria apologizes, acknowledging Lord Anthem's busy schedule while they dine. Lord Anthem expresses a wish to be home more often, to which Lyria reassures him it is fine. Lyria expresses her genuine happiness with a bright smile. Lord Anthem thanks Lyria as they share a meal. The brown-haired maid quietly checks on Lyria, who happily shares that she spent the day sketching plants in the garden. Anthem Isaac Vergerheim smiles gently, telling Lyria not to push herself too hard, and promising to be back at her side soon. Lyria smiles brightly in agreement, her eyes twinkling with a hopeful promise. Anthem proposes they share daily meals and conversations once the war ends, then asks Lyria if she would teach him about garden herbs. Lyria beams with joy, eagerly agreeing to Anthem's plans and reflecting on her possession of Lord Anthem. Lyria, with a large blue bow in her pink hair, warmly welcomes Lord Anthem back as he stands in a grand hallway. Anthem expresses relief that Lyria is safe again, and she affirms his words, though her smile in the lower panel carries a hint of unspoken confusion. Lyria looks back with a worried expression, her eyes wide with a lingering unease in the grand room. The next day, Lyria reaches out to Anthem for a meal, but he swiftly declines, citing a lack of time and walking away, leaving her disappointed. Lyria sighs dejectedly on the couch, wondering aloud what has gone wrong between them. Lyria looks down, lost in troubled thought, her sadness evident in her lowered gaze and pensive expression. Lyria decides she needs to go out and clear her head amidst the ornate floral background. Lyria, wearing a green dress and smiling, enjoys the outdoors with a brown-haired woman surrounded by blooming roses. The brown-haired woman asks Lyria about her trip to town, and Lyria explains she is looking for a gift for Lord Anthem. Lyria questions the brown-haired woman's sudden unease, who quickly deflects, asking what gift Lyria intends to give. Lyria looks pensive, her finger to her chin, admitting she's not sure what gift to choose for Anthem. The brown-haired woman suggests accessories from a popular new store, and Lyria eagerly agrees to go check it out. The brown-haired woman and Lyria both look startled, their attention caught by an unseen sight ahead. Lyria's wide, shocked eyes witness Anthem walking intimately with a golden-haired woman in a floral dress, causing her intense distress. Lyria stares up, her thoughts filled with Lord Anthem as she looks at the dark-haired man with golden eyes, confirming his identity. Lyria sits on her bed in a white nightgown, holding a small mirror, her distressed expression highlighted by faint light and the visible wedding rings. Lyria stands in her room, her hand to her chest, admitting she cannot stop thinking about the distressing incident. Lyria, in her white nightgown, slowly walks towards a grand doorway, her steps echoing her heavy thoughts. Lyria listens intently as the brown-haired maid asks if she has heard news, and Lyria cautiously responds about that. Three maids conspire in hushed tones, maliciously gossiping about the lord's infidelity and the lady's oblivious nature. The whispers confirm widespread rumors of the lord having fun, and a blonde-haired maid recalls hearing about his affair from another maid. Lyria looks utterly shocked and distressed, her hands covering her mouth as she utters the word affair, grappling with the harsh truth. Lyria remains shocked, her distress deepening as she processes the word, whispering cheating to herself. Three brown-haired maids gleefully gossip and giggle, speculating that their master is with his lover and their madam will soon be abandoned. A maid derisively thinks Lyria foolishly waits for her husband, unaware that Lyria is silently crying alone in her room. Lyria, looking deeply saddened, tries to convince herself to ignore the maid's words, dismissing their gossip as nonsense. Lyria considers talking to her father but decides against it, fearing to burden him on the battlefield or create further misunderstanding, opting instead to write. Lyria, quill in hand, resolves with a determined expression to confront Lord Anthem about the situation directly. Lyria cheerfully greets Anthem with, "Welcome back," but he stands somberly in the doorway, while she looks at him with a mix of hope and uncertainty. Lyria gasps in alarm, reaching out to Lord Anthem as she realizes his hand is injured and bloody. Anthem dismisses Lyria's concerned, and rejects her help with his injury, stating he will deal with it himself. Anthem walks away, leaving Lyria with clasped hands and a sad expression, as she later sighs in dejection, standing alone in the grand hall. The driver of a blue carriage bids, "Have a good day, master," as Anthem departs from the grand house. Lyria leans against a window, filled with despair, wondering if Anthem hates her, if she's useless, or if he has grown tired and now loves someone else. Lyria closes her eyes in profound sadness, her face reflecting deep emotional pain. The narrative reveals the young wife's abandonment, her days filled with disregard and harassment, as Anthem's whereabouts remain unknown amid chaotic front lines. Newspapers reported more about Anthem's war situation than his own wife knew, symbolized by broken plates, highlighting her isolation and lack of information. A grand house stands under a clear sky, appearing stately yet perhaps hiding much within its walls. The brown-haired maid expresses concern for Lyria's well-being, but Lyria sadly replies that she has realized expecting anything will only cause her pain. The brown-haired maid offers to speak to the master, but Lyria, walking away, politely declines, insisting she is fine. The brown-haired maid makes a tsuke sound, as Lyria thinks to herself that she doesn't want Anthem to see her in such a vulnerable state. The white-haired Lyria reaches out to a blue-haired reflection or vision of herself, highlighting her inner turmoil and longing for change. The brown-haired maid concedes there is no choice if Lyria insists, then suggests she return to her family home for a while. Lyria, wearing a white gown, looks over her shoulder, seemingly contemplating the brown-haired maid's suggestion to return home. The brown-haired maid hesitantly addresses the white-haired woman, who silently ponders. The brown-haired maid presents a gift to the white-haired woman, who wonders if it's from her father. The white-haired woman examines the small gray box, noticing it has significantly tarnished. She opens the box to reveal a beautiful, ornate silver hair accessory adorned with white flowers and jewels. A close-up reveals the exquisite ornament resting on a card, partially showing the name Lyria. Lyria, with purple eyes, holds the card, her expression filled with a deep sadness. Lyria recalls a past moment with a dark-haired man, lamenting that his kindness is no longer hers. Lyria gently closes the small gray box with a soft pat. Lyria stands thoughtfully by a window, gazing out at the bright day. The brown-haired maid leads Lyria through a lavish, ornate room. Lyria walks away from a grand desk, leaving something behind with a soft tap. A letter from Lyria to Lord Anthem expresses hopes for his happiness and gratitude. A magnificent, sprawling white manor stands proudly amidst lush gardens under a clear sky. Lyria, dressed in dark blue, sits reading a letter, narrating how she hid her separation from her father. Lyria holds a letter from her father, urging her to live the way you want, marking the end of their contact. Grand General Kaisak Aaron Volheim of the Lysand Empire tragically met an honorable death in battle. Lyria, dressed in mourning, expresses her sorrow, lamenting she lacks time to properly grieve her father's death. Lyria's face is solemn, her purple eyes reflecting profound grief and determination. Dressed in black, Lyria somberly watches two men complete the burial of her father. Lyria narrates how she returned her ducal title, using the funds to compensate staff and sell her mansion. An off-screen voice acknowledges the narrator's past struggles after her loss. Viscount Herman warmly offers the residence as a permanent home, inviting comfortable living. Viscount Herman smiles kindly at Lyria, who now has purple-white hair, welcoming her. Lyria enjoys a period of relaxation, receiving a bath, hairstyling, and books from attentive maids. Lyria, though enjoying her quiet time, reflects that she cannot stay idle forever. Her hand rests on a book as Lyria firmly resolves to find a way to earn her own money. Viscount Herman offers to help Lyria find employment, but she politely declines his assistance. Viscount Herman asserts his commitment to helping, stating he considers her like a daughter. Lyria looks utterly surprised and touched, a blush rising to her cheeks. Lyria, with her hair braided, diligently prepares herbs at a sunlit desk, embracing her new work. Lyria gazes out a window, a narrative caption marking a significant shift in time. A dark-haired man urgently holds a distressed, dark-haired woman amidst a downpour. A year has passed since Lyria opened her quaint mulberry herb shop. Lyria, smiling, notes that with increased outsourcing, her business has become very busy. Lyria instructs a brown-haired customer on medicine dosage, who confirms the usual routine. The brown-haired customer gratefully thanks Lyria, praising the effectiveness of her medicine. The brown-haired customer thanks Lyria once more for the excellent medicine. Ronan Cornish, a light brown-haired man, waves and greets Lila. Lila, surprised, asks Ronan if it's already time for him to leave. Ronan notes it's time for the garrison, observing that Lila appears busy as well. Lila remarks how fast time flies when busy, then asks Ronan to carry some medicines, to which he agrees. Ronan, with his horse and cart, helped Lila when she was lost, becoming a close friend and business aid. Ronan responds with understanding as Lila reflects on him being her very first friend. Lila descends the stairs with light taps, her expression thoughtful. Lila holds a hair ornament to her braided hair, looking into the mirror with a thoughtful gotcha sound. Lila pours a clear liquid from a small bottle onto her hair with a capo sound. Lila looks at her reflection, revealing her transformed, long, dark hair. Ronan and Lila, now with dark hair, agree to depart on their horse-drawn cart. Ronan expresses amazement at Lila's transformation, noting how her dark hair makes her look completely different. Lila, visually with white hair, explains she dyed her hair to avoid attracting too much attention from soldiers at the garrison. The image details Lila's dye creation process, using improved brola grass, which produces a black liquid when crushed. Ronan and Lila, with her dark hair, ride their horse-drawn cart laden with crates, as an unseen voice questions an earlier statement. Ronan compliments Lila's dark hair, calling it very pretty, and a blushing Lila thanks him. Ronan asks Lila if she read the morning's newspaper, prompting her to inquire, "Newspaper?" Ronan informs Lila that a civil war occurred, but was swiftly resolved by the Grand Duke. Lila gazes thoughtfully into the distance, pondering the mention of the Grand Duke. A narrative frame reveals that 2 years prior, a white-haired woman, Lyria, returned to the capital to obtain her pharmacist qualification, expressing relief at finishing her exams and hoping she passed. Lyria, with white hair and purple eyes, observes the bustling, festival-like commotion around her with surprise. A close-up reveals the piercing golden eyes and dark hair of His Excellency. His Excellency, the dark-haired man, is depicted in a formal uniform, looking intently forward. Ronan and Lila, in her dark-haired persona, arrive at the Mulberry Herb Shop to deliver medicine, where a light brown-haired soldier greets her as Ms. Mulberry. The light brown-haired soldier thanks Lila for her delivery, then asks if he can immediately bring the luggage inside, to which she happily agrees. Lila smiles as the light brown-haired soldier apologizes for the extensive order, attributing it to her medicine's popularity among the soldiers, and she notes that's good to hear. Lila, smiling, reassures the light brown-haired soldier that the large order is fine and invites him to follow her inside. Lila, with her dark hair flowing, asks Ronan if he has a moment, and he inquires what she needs. Lila suggests Ronan go home first while she discusses the next order, prompting Ronan to worry about how he'll get back without the carriage. Lila assures Ronan she'll ensure his proper departure, and he asks, really in surprise, as the light brown-haired soldier carries boxes away. Ronan decides to go home, but expresses concern about the area becoming dangerous, asking Lila if she's sure it's safe for him to leave. Lila is startled, asking dangerous upon hearing about a recent kidnapping incident in a nearby village. Lila assures Ronan that she will be safe at the garrison, where soldiers can assist if needed, and he acknowledges her confidence. Ronan, still worried, agrees to leave but promises to check on the shop tomorrow morning, and Lila thanks him for his concern. Lila thanks the light brown-haired soldier for the order, promising to notify him when the medicine is ready, and he expresses gratitude. The light brown-haired soldier thanks Lila for staying late, then, with a subtle shift in his expression, begins to discuss her carriage home. The light brown-haired soldier rushes forward in a panic, shouting, "Excuse me!" As Lila watches, the light brown-haired soldier urgently rushes towards her, asking what's going on, and then frantically confirming if she is the pharmacist. A startled Lila, with dark hair, confirms to the frantic light brown-haired soldier that she is indeed the pharmacist. Lila looks visibly distressed and overwhelmed as she silently receives an urgent plea for help. The light brown-haired soldier demands Lila come with him immediately, but she protests, explaining she is not a doctor. The light brown-haired soldier frantically stresses the urgency of the situation, highlighting Lila's medical knowledge, but she remains hesitant. He then pleads, explaining the heavy snow makes it impossible to find a doctor. Lila gazes out the window at the unexpected snowfall, realizing how difficult it would be to find a doctor in such weather conditions. The light brown-haired soldier desperately bows to Lila, imploring her as Madam Healer to help, warning that His Excellency will die otherwise. Lila, with a determined expression, appears to accept the urgent request. A group of soldiers stands in distress around an injured man lying at the foot of a grand staircase, indicating a chaotic situation. The light brown-haired soldier rushes Lila with her dark hair flowing through the crowd, urgently announcing the arrival of the healer. Lila kneels beside an injured red-haired soldier, asking if he is all right, and requests an explanation of the situation from the surrounding light brown-haired soldiers. A red-haired soldier explains that His Excellency was ambushed, sustaining an arrow wound to his arm, and despite his initial refusal of treatment, his condition worsened, culminating in him losing consciousness. Lila acknowledges the red-haired soldier's explanation, then states her intention to examine the injured man's wound immediately. Lila intently examines the discolored wound on His Excellency's arm, identifying it as poison from a yatsurutake mushroom. The red-haired soldier reacts with shock and concern, repeating, "Poison, huh?" The narrative explains the yatsurutake mushroom, a poisonous, non-lethal Eastern plant that causes paralysis and unconsciousness if not promptly treated. Lila's hands carefully tear the fabric around His Excellency's arm, exposing his wound. Lila urgently instructs the red-haired soldier and another light brown-haired soldier to quickly retrieve a clean pitcher, a cloth, and an empty bucket, to which the red-haired soldier responds with a hesitant, "Oh, okay." Lila applies a cloth and appears to be sucking on the unconscious His Excellency's wound, drawing out the poison. Lila looks up as the light brown-haired soldier promptly arrives with the requested supplies, and she thanks him. Lila intensely sucks on His Excellency's arm, drawing out the poison and blood. The red-haired soldier and other light brown-haired soldiers watch with concerned expressions as Lila continues to treat His Excellency's wound. A bowl holds a red-tinged liquid, presumably from the wound. Lila tends to His Excellency's now bandaged arm, noting that his condition seems stable for the moment. Lila informs the red-haired soldier that she's provided first aid, but emphasizes the need for proper treatment and an antidote, instructing them to move His Excellency to a bed. The red-haired soldier and another light brown-haired soldier express profound gratitude to Lila for saving the day, though she cautions that His Excellency's condition remains unstable. The red-haired soldier reassures Lila that His Excellency has already overcome many life-threatening situations. Men in uniform, including the red-haired soldier, attend to His Excellency lying on the floor, while a man with light brown hair says they will carry him to a room, and Lila agrees. Two men in uniform carefully lift His Excellency onto a stretcher, confirming everything is ready and preparing to move him. Lila looks shocked and confused, wondering what is happening. The red-haired soldier and other men support the unconscious His Excellency as Lila approaches, her expression filled with concern. His Excellency breathes softly while unconscious, as Lila worries, uttering Lord Anthem in her thoughts. Lila's thoughts drift, questioning why he is here and thinking she believed they would never meet again. Lila walks beside a man in a dark uniform, nervously looking at him as he carries a cap. The red-haired soldier asks Lila if something happened as they walk behind two men carrying His Excellency on a stretcher. Lila apologizes to the red-haired soldier, explaining she was just surprised. Lila clasps her hands, reflecting on her surprise. Lila asks the red-haired soldier if he is the one in charge of the northern region, and he confirms she knows His Excellency. A map highlights a garrison, and text explains that His Excellency is in charge of this northern region garrison, which recently changed jurisdiction from the eastern region. Lila looks thoughtful, acknowledging the information from the red-haired soldier. Lila thinks that if she had known this area was under his jurisdiction, she wouldn't have opened a pharmacy in this town. The image shows a pharmacy and Lila's past reflections, stating she cut ties with Lord Anthem and didn't want to meet him again, opening a pharmacy far away, yet questioning why things ended up like this. The red-haired soldier suggests they head to the room, and Lila quietly agrees. Layla thinks that she doesn't want to get involved with him, but he might die if she doesn't treat him, and hopes he won't recognize her with her dyed hair and black eyes. Lila follows the red-haired soldier, walking away down a hall. The red-haired soldier calls out, to Lila, as she continues to walk ahead of him. His Excellency lies unconscious on a bed, appearing injured and weak. Lila asks a man in uniform if he has a first aid kit, and he replies that they've already prepared one, holding out a wooden box. Lila takes the first aid kit from the man and offers to let him know if anything else is needed. The red-haired soldier thanks Lila for saving His Excellency. Elliot Baroque Brass introduces himself as His Excellency's aide, smiling warmly amidst blooming flowers. Sarah Mulberry introduces herself as a healer from a nearby town, as Elliot politely addresses her as Miss Mulberry. Elliot promises Sarah he won't interfere with the treatment, and she agrees, thanking him while His Excellency lies injured nearby. Elliot compliments Sarah's skill in treating His Excellency, asking if it's required for a healer to study such things, and Sarah confirms it is, to some extent. Sarah explains she became used to treating wounds from her own frequent injuries, which surprises Elliot. Sarah explains she sometimes gathers medicinal herbs herself, showing a misty forest landscape. Sarah explains that mixing medicine can roughen her hands, which is why she became used to treating her own wounds. Sarah looks at her hands while explaining how medicine mixing roughens them, and Elliot acknowledges that being a healer isn't easy. Sarah looks at the injured His Excellency, considering her own minor injuries compared to those of soldiers. His Excellency lies injured on the bed, and Sarah thinks her own injuries are nothing. Sarah stands pensively beside the injured His Excellency, surrounded by softly glowing flowers. Sarah's thoughts reveal she only knew His Excellency in his military uniform and had never seen him so vulnerable. Sarah's thoughts continue, reflecting that she doesn't know him at all despite their long time together, yet being by his side makes her chest feel tight. Elliot makes a guess, wondering if Sarah has known His Excellency from before. Elliot asks Sarah if she has known His Excellency before, causing her to look at him with surprise as His Excellency lies unconscious. Elliot apologizes, explaining he thought she might have saved His Excellency on the battlefield because she looked so serious. Sarah sadly denies having met him before, stating this is their first meeting. Elliot dismisses his earlier thoughts and playfully asks if His Excellency often helps people in battle, given Sarah's serious demeanor. Elliot smiles, confirming that His Excellency often helps people, and receives much gratitude for it. Elliot explains that His Excellency prioritizes evacuating civilians in wartime, depicting a scene of His Excellency protecting people amidst chaos. Sarah looks thoughtful, realizing she never knew about his selfless actions on the battlefield. Sarah's thoughts evolve from perceiving His Excellency as a cold and merciless killer on horseback to realizing he is a hero who saved many lives. Sarah concludes she was wrong to assume he acted that way towards everyone, deciding there's no point dwelling on the past. Sarah tells Elliot to get some rest, expressing concern for his tiredness, and he thanks her for her concern. Elliot tells Sarah to look after His Excellency, and she confirms she will as he turns to leave. Sarah holds a syringe with a serious, focused expression, preparing for treatment. Lila carefully holds a syringe, preparing to inject Anthem, who is lying injured in bed and appears to flinch. Lila looks at Anthem with wide, concerned eyes as he lies unconscious and bandaged in bed. Lila sits beside Anthem, who is still unconscious and sweating, as she looks at the first aid kit, concerned by his condition. As Lila touches Anthem's hand, his eyes open, and he suddenly grabs her hand with a jolt, causing her to exclaim in surprise. Anthem, now awake and furious, grabs Lila's wrist, demanding to know her identity, while she looks utterly shocked. Lila explains she is a healer, but Anthem questions her intentions while clutching his neck. She then pleads for release, stating she was asked to treat him, only for Anthem to aggressively ask who requested her. Lila explains Anthem's subordinates, wounded by a poisoned arrow, asked for her help. Anthem then asks if she caused this, and she responds with a hesitant, "Yes, very well," as he clutches her hand. Anthem, sitting up with a bandaged arm, thanks Lila for treating his wound, then angrily orders her to get out. Lila protests that she hasn't administered the antidote, but Anthem rejects her help, stating he'll handle it himself and furiously screams, "Enough! Get out now!" as he glares at her. Lila glances back, startled, as Anthem shouts, "Hey!" and violently grabs her arm, pulling her back with a flash of light. Anthem holds Lila's wrist, pulling her close onto the bed as he looks at her intently and whispers, "Lei, Ria." Anthem repeats, "Lei, Ria?" his gaze fixed on the dark-haired woman he holds. Anthem, holding Lila tightly on the bed, asks if she is Lyria, but Lila, distressed, tries to deny it. Anthem's hand gently cups Lila's chin, turning her face to his, her expression startled. Anthem looks intensely at Lila, telling her not to lie and confirming she is Lyria. Lila looks distressed, wondering how Anthem recognized her, despite changing her hair and eye color. Anthem embraces Lila tightly, closing his eyes in a moment of profound relief and longing amidst sparkling white flowers. Lila, embraced by Anthem, questions his actions, while he holds her close, stating he has been looking for her all this time. Lila looks up, her face reflecting skepticism as she processes his claim of searching for her. Lila cries, "Eek," as Anthem presses her onto the bed, insisting he has the wrong person, that her name is Lila Mulberry, and demanding he let her go. Anthem, looking deeply distressed, questions why, thinking, "But you're..." Lila cries out, asserting she doesn't know anyone named Lyria, and finds his grabbing her incredibly rude. Anthem questions if she truly isn't Lyria, and Lila, looking away, emphatically states she has told him repeatedly she is not. Anthem looks down, appearing dejected, then apologizes for being so rude, leaving Lila surprised. Lila, sitting beside Anthem, tells him she is leaving to get Lord Elliot and insists he take the antidote, warning him the poison is still active. Lila walks away from the bed where Anthem sits, glancing back at him with a sigh. Lila returns and sits closer to Anthem, gently encouraging him to breathe slowly while she tends to his wound. Lila explains she inserted the antidote, but the poison has weakened his body, instructing him to rest and ensure he eats properly. Anthem looks thoughtfully at Lila as she speaks, lost in contemplation. Anthem looks directly at Lila, telling her he has been searching for a long time for a woman who looks just like her. A flashback reveals Lyria with long white hair and purple eyes, smiling gently amidst sparkling flowers. Lila, with a pensive expression, looks down while Anthem sits behind her on the bed. Lila thinks to herself that no matter how she dressed, he never paid attention to her, assuming he wasn't interested in her appearance. Lila stands with her back to Anthem, who sits on the bed, gazing at her long, dark hair. Lila gestures to her hair and eyes, stating she has black hair and black eyes, implying she is nothing like his wife. Anthem looks at a strand of Lila's dark hair in his hand, stating that the way her hair waves is just like his wife's. Lila looks shocked and flustered, her cheeks slightly red, as Anthem holds a strand of her hair. Lila flinches and pulls back, distressed by Anthem's actions. Lila shouts at Anthem, pulling away, stating she is not his wife. Anthem, looking serious and apologetic, says he is sorry he touched her without thinking. Lila angrily tells Anthem to stop toying with her, then bids him to take care of himself as she pulls away. Anthem kneels, picking up a handkerchief, calling out that she forgot it, but Lila, walking away, calls back that it's fine and he can keep it. The red-haired soldier, Elliot, approaches Lila, calling out, "Mulberry, perfect timing," with a cheerful smile. Elliot, seen through a snowy window, explains the snow isn't letting up tonight, so he arranged for Lila to stay over, then asks if something is the matter, seeing her distress. Elliot smiles, asking Lila if His Excellency is awake and if she administered the antidote, to which she confirms both, looking surprised by his question. Elliot happily thanks Lila profusely for everything, holding a cushion. Elliot tells Lila he will show her to her room, adding that while it's not much of a reward, he hopes she will take time to rest and relax today. Elliot looks confused, wondering if he said something that upset Lila. Lila walks away, holding her hood, still looking troubled, as Elliot watches her, contemplating. The scene shifts to 9 years ago, where a dark-haired man in uniform, Anthem, fiercely fights with a sword, while another dark-haired man cowers, exclaiming, and crying out that he doesn't want to die and calling Anthem a monster. Anthem, with a bloody face, slashes his sword, sending blood splattering, and then stands over the fallen, bloody body of the other man in a dark forest. The dark-haired man, Anthem, looks pensive, reflecting on the numerous lives he has taken this day. Anthem marches forward in uniform, surrounded by shadowy figures of fallen civilians, pondering the strange nature of war despite his many kills. Anthem stands over a fallen, bloody soldier with his sword, considering himself a murderer rather than a hero, haunted by the enemy lives he has taken. A close-up on Anthem's golden eye reveals the grim reflection of numerous bodies, making him question the value of his position gained from such carnage. Anthem, in a dark forest, sheathes his bloody sword with a quick shink sound, his back turned to the camera. The scene depicts a bleak, abstract background, asserting that war drives people mad, and one among them has gone the most insane. Anthem, his face smudged with dirt, sheathes his sword with a thump and sighs heavily, looking troubled. A hand gently holds a small, decorative compact, and a thought bubble notes the lingering scent of flowers. A memory flashes to a young, white-haired girl with wide, surprised eyes, surrounded by sparkling white flowers. Anthem brings the compact to his nose, closing his eyes, and a thought bubble whispers, "Lyria." Anthem, in uniform, adjusts his tie, thinking that if they are indeed the ones, then his blood-stained hands might not be so bad after all. Anthem strides determinedly over fallen figures in the forest, resolving to end the war quickly and reunite with her. 3 warped clocks drift across a dark, surreal landscape, symbolizing the passage of time. Anthem, in a grand hall, looks intently forward, quietly questioning Lyria, as the light brown-haired man and 2 maids stand in the background. Anthem, seen from behind, faces the light brown-haired man and several maids in the opulent hall. The grand hall echoes with urgent shouts of "Lyria!" accompanied by frantic bang sounds indicating a desperate search. Anthem, looking distraught, bursts into the room, urgently calling out, "Lyria!" Anthem gazes into an empty, elegant room, softly uttering "Lyria," as if searching for someone absent. Anthem appears deeply distressed, clutching a paper and repeatedly calling out "Lyria," while rejecting an implied action for her sake. The light, brown-haired man, Viscount Herman, gasps and jolts awake in his bed, looking startled. Viscount Herman asks the dark-haired man Anthem if he is awake, to which Anthem, sitting up, confirms with a yes. Gisela Ezreal, a composed blonde-haired maid with green eyes, is introduced. Gisela greets Anthem, asking how he feels. He replies he's not well, but will be fine, then asks how long he was asleep. Gisela informs Anthem he collapsed 2 days ago from a poisoned arrow, and he reacts with surprise. Anthem looks down, lost in thought, processing the information. Gisela confirms that the apothecary Leela was picked up by a carriage and has returned home. Anthem sternly instructs Gisela to absolutely find her, and she acknowledges his order. Anthem asks about the status of the kidnapping case, and Gisela reports it is still under investigation. Anthem orders Gisela to start on the kidnapping case immediately, and she assents. Anthem sits on the edge of the bed, deep in thought, with a faint thump sound. A hand gently places the embroidered white handkerchief previously given by Lila into a small purple box. The dark-haired woman, Lila, walks away, telling the dark-haired man Anthem he can keep the handkerchief as he inhales its scent of a flower. The dark-haired man, Anthem, walks barefoot, thinking that her changes in hair and eye color couldn't hide her identity. Anthem gazes out a window, reflecting that he recognized Lyria Eros Wisteria, his precious wife, instantly, despite her changes, and has searched for her for 4 years. Anthem embraces the distressed, dark-haired woman, Lila, pondering if their reunion is fate or a blessing, acknowledging she won't easily forgive him. Anthem, with a determined expression, vows, "Never again will I." The light brown-haired man, Ronan Cornish, shouts, accusing someone of being way too careless. Ronan tells the white-haired woman Lyria he was surprised she wasn't home when he visited, and she explains the snow made it impossible to go out. Lyria, with white hair, tells Ronan she has work and bids him farewell, cautioning him to be careful, and he acknowledges her words. The white-haired woman, Lyria, sighs thoughtfully, reflecting that she got scolded and decides to prepare herself. The white-haired woman, Lyria, busily cuts herbs with scissors on a table, preparing medicine. The dark-haired man, Anthem, reflects on his recent encounter, believing he, quote, won't see him anymore. Anthem's thoughts detail the antidote's success, Lila's peaceful return, and the vast social disparity between his status as a Grand Duke and her as a commoner. The exterior of a building is shown, with a thought bubble stating, "Thank you for waiting." A brown-haired woman thanks the white-haired woman, Lyria, who informs her that she has prepared her usual medicine. The white-haired woman, Lyria, looks thoughtful, recalling Ronan's earlier similar remarks. The brown-haired woman informs the white-haired woman, Lyria, about young women being targeted for kidnapping, and the town's notice to avoid going out at night, which Lyria finds frightening. The brown-haired woman suggests the white-haired woman, Lyria, dye her hair and eyes black again like before, for safety due to the kidnappings. The white-haired woman, Lyria, agrees, acknowledging her shop is far from town, deciding it's better to be safe than sorry to change her appearance. The brown-haired woman smiles and takes her leave, while the white-haired woman, Lyria, thanks her politely. The white-haired woman, Lyria, with purple eyes, smiles gently in an indoor setting. The white-haired woman, Lyria, smiles subtly as a dark-haired man and a light brown-haired woman walk past in the background. The white-haired woman, Lyria, stands with hands on her hips, her purple eyes serious as she internally states she has to protect herself. The dark-haired woman, Lila, with long flowing hair, looks contemplative in the same indoor setting. The dark-haired woman, Lila, descends a staircase, her hand gently resting on the banister. The dark-haired woman, Lila, descends the stairs with a cheerful smile, telling someone she will be right with them, while the dark-haired man, Anthem, in a uniform, welcomes her. The dark-haired woman, Lila, looks shocked and distraught, questioning why. The dark-haired man, Anthem, in a military uniform, stands with his back to the viewer, while a close-up shows his dark hair and golden eyes looking intense. The dark-haired woman, Lila, stands behind a counter, asking the dark-haired man, Anthem, what she can do for him, as he internally notes he's glad he dyed his hair and eyes, which appear dark in this panel. The dark-haired woman, Lila, asks the dark-haired man, Anthem, how he found the location of her shop. The dark-haired man, Anthem, pauses before the dark-haired woman, Lila, thanks him for going out of his way. The dark-haired man, Anthem, with dark hair and golden eyes, smiles subtly, offering a thank you. The dark-haired man, Anthem, with golden eyes, responds no to the dark-haired woman, Lila, who looks surprised. The dark-haired man, Anthem, with golden eyes, stands silently as the dark-haired woman, Lila, asks him what is wrong. The dark-haired man, Anthem, with golden eyes and a subtle blonde streak in his dark hair, asks the dark-haired woman, Lila, if she had any health problems, startling her. The dark-haired man, Anthem, asks the dark-haired woman, Lila, if she is all right, recalling a flashback of a dark-haired woman lying injured, and Lila states she had no problems, to which he replies, I see. The dark-haired man, Anthem, asks the dark-haired woman, Lila, if she always uses that method for patients, and she explains it was a critical situation with no choice. The dark-haired man, Anthem, gently holds the dark-haired woman, Lila's, chin, instructing her not to do such dangerous things again. The dark-haired man, Anthem, asks the dark-haired woman, Lila, if she understood, and she quietly replies, yes. The dark-haired man, Anthem, with golden eyes, looks contemplative with a thoughtful sound. The dark-haired man, Anthem, tells the dark-haired woman, Lila, that he came to express his gratitude as previously mentioned. The dark-haired woman, Lila, looks surprised at an unseen presence, then angrily states she doesn't need payment and feels indebted to the garrison, internally deciding not to get further involved with him. The dark-haired man, Anthem, with dark eyes, emphasizes that payment is not the issue, and her gratitude is enough, as a small chibi Lila looks thoughtful. The dark-haired man, Anthem, with dark eyes, stands silently looking at the dark-haired woman, Lila, who looks pensive. The dark-haired man, Anthem, with golden eyes, smiles, inviting the dark-haired woman, Lila, to a meal. The dark-haired man, Anthem, explains he will be at the garrison for a while and invites the dark-haired woman, Lila, to dine. But she hesitates, saying she cannot. The dark-haired woman, Lila, with a distressed expression, states that it's not exactly what he thinks. The light, brown-haired man, Ronan, calls out to the dark-haired woman, Lila, who realizes a customer has arrived, as the dark-haired man, Anthem, looks on. The light brown-haired man, Ronan, asks the dark-haired woman, Lila, what is the matter, reminding her of their dinner appointment, while the dark-haired man, Anthem, listens intently. The dark-haired man, Anthem, sarcastically notes that the dark-haired woman, Lila, can have dinner with Ronan but not with him, and Lila explains Ronan is like family. The dark-haired man, Anthem, questions if Ronan is not a friend, then directly asks the light brown-haired man, Ronan, about his relationship with the dark-haired woman, Lila. The dark-haired woman, Lila, hesitates to answer about her relationship with the light brown-haired man, Ronan, when the red-haired soldier, Elliot Baroque Brass, interrupts, telling the dark-haired man, Anthem, it's time to return. The red-haired soldier, Elliot Baroque Brass, looks surprised, and a chibi dark-haired woman, Lila, thinks his name. The red-haired soldier, Elliot Baroque Brass, greets the dark-haired woman, Lila, and thanks her for her help the other day, while the dark-haired man, Anthem, and the light brown-haired man, Ronan, are also present. The dark-haired man, Anthem, with dark eyes, sternly warns the dark-haired woman, Lila, not to run away, vowing to search with all their might if she does. The dark-haired woman, Lila, flustered, protests that she never said she was leaving, but the dark-haired man, Anthem, with dark eyes, smiles slyly, saying he looks forward to that day. The dark-haired man, Anthem, walks away, with the red-haired soldier, Elliot Baroque Brass, following and calling out to him as Anthem announces his departure. The light brown-haired man, Ronan, asks the dark-haired woman, Lila, about the dark-haired man's impressive presence and if she's seen him before, and Lila replies he is a new customer. The dark-haired woman, Lila, with long, dark hair, stands with her back to the viewer, looking out a window. The white-haired woman, Luria, looks surprised and lets out an ugh sound while holding a box. The white-haired woman, Lyria, looks at a box from Roselia Closet, a high-end clothing store, pondering about that person. The white-haired woman, Lyria, looks displeased as she realizes the box contains high-class dresses she is expected to wear to an upcoming dinner. The white-haired woman, Lyria, stands with her back to the viewer, looking at the box, wondering what he is thinking. A white carriage pulled by dark horses travels through a vibrant forest. The dark-haired woman, Lila, sits elegantly in a flowing blue gown and a shawl, looking poised. The dark-haired woman, Lila, touches her elaborate blue gown, thinking she never imagined she would wear such a dress again. The dark-haired woman, Lila, sighs, reflecting that despite her intentions, she ended up following his pace. A flashback panel shows the white-haired woman, Lyria, in a simpler dress, seated at a table with food. The white-haired woman, Lyria, with purple eyes, writes at a table, while the dark-haired man, Anthem, with dark eyes, sits across from her. The dark-haired man, Anthem, with dark eyes, tells the white-haired woman, Lyria, and another light brown-haired man, that he must leave for work, and Lyria reacts softly. The purple-haired woman offers a stack of documents to a dark-haired man, requesting him to review them, and he acknowledges her. The purple-haired woman stands wide-eyed and shocked as a loud noise emanates from the doors before her. Two dark-haired maids, smiling mischievously, seem to be observing the situation with amusement. A poignant internal monologue reveals a memory of him suddenly becoming cold, leaving her young and unsure of how to react, and she continues to recall only unpleasant memories. A dark-haired man gallantly helps the elegant dark-haired woman Lila out of a white carriage, advising her to watch her step. The red-haired soldier, Elliot Baroque Brass, greets the composed, dark-haired woman, Ms. Mulberry. The red-haired soldier, Elliot Baroque Brass, warmly welcomes the dark-haired woman, Lila, who recognizes him as Sir Elliot. The elegant, dark-haired woman, Lila, performs a graceful curtsy before the red-haired soldier, Elliot Baroque Brass. The beautiful, dark-haired woman, Lila, in her elaborate gown, smiles as she expresses her eagerness to work together. The red-haired soldier, Elliot Baroque Brass, looks at the dark-haired woman, Lila, with a surprised expression. The dark-haired woman, Lila, looking somewhat flustered, gently calls out to Sir Elliot. The red-haired soldier, Elliot Baroque Brass, quickly apologizes, explaining his surprise at her perfect manners and inquiring where she learned them. The dark-haired woman Lila explains her refined manners by revealing her past as a medicine supplier to a baron's household, which the red-haired soldier, Elliot Baroque Brass, now understands. The red-haired soldier, Elliot Baroque Brass, notes Ms. Mulberry's extensive experience despite her youth, while Lila internally chides herself for her old habits and resolves to be more careful. The dark-haired woman, Lila, responds with a quiet yes to the red-haired soldier, Elliot Baroque Brass, maintaining a pleasant demeanor. A brown-haired attendant offers to take care of Lila's belongings, and she gratefully accepts. The red-haired soldier, Elliot Baroque Brass, gestures down a hallway, guiding the dark-haired woman Lila and the brown-haired attendant, who quietly agrees to follow. As they walk, the red-haired soldier, Elliot Baroque Brass, compliments Lila, telling her she looks even more beautiful than usual. The red-haired soldier, Elliot Baroque Brass, remarks that he would have mistaken Lila for a true noblewoman, prompting her surprised, "Huh?" The red-haired soldier, Elliot Baroque Brass, asks about her comfortable journey, and Lila expresses her gratitude for the escort sent to pick her up. The red-haired soldier, Elliot Baroque Brass, winks to the side, revealing that His Excellency, Anthem, was originally meant to pick her up, but was too busy with work, despite his disappointment. Lila acknowledges the revelation with a slight blush, while a chibi Anthem's internal thought expresses his awkwardness about being alone with her in the carriage. The red-haired soldier, Elliot Baroque Brass, informs Lila that their current location will serve as the dining hall for the day, as 2 guards stand at the doors. As the dark-haired man, Anthem, walks through the corridor, surrounded by his busy subordinates, the dark-haired woman, Lila, reflects that this diligent scene is just as she remembered it from their marriage. Several dark-haired men observe the dark-haired woman, Lila, and the red-haired soldier, Elliot Baroque Brass, as they walk through the hall. The dark-haired woman, Lila, looks pensive as she walks beside the red-haired soldier, Elliot Baroque Brass, her thoughts clearly elsewhere. The dark-haired man, Anthem, watches with an intense gaze as the dark-haired woman, Lila, stands with the red-haired soldier, Elliot Baroque Brass, facing a line of uniformed men. A sudden, forceful step precedes the dark-haired man, Anthem's swift action as he firmly takes the surprised dark-haired woman, Lila's, hand, leaving the red-haired soldier, Elliot Baroque Brass, speechless. The dark-haired man, Anthem, tenderly holds the dark-haired woman, Lila, gazing deeply into her eyes amidst a shower of glittering roses, as she looks down in bewildered surprise. The dark-haired man, Anthem, gently holds the dark-haired woman, Lila's, hand, their gazes locked in a tender, intimate moment surrounded by sparkling roses. The dark-haired man, Anthem, protectively holds the dark-haired woman, Lila, at his side, casting a stern gaze at the red-haired soldier, Elliot Baroque Brass, who looks utterly surprised by his action. A chibi red-haired soldier, Elliot Baroque Brass, expresses his shocked indignation, protesting that he was only providing an escort. The dark-haired man, Anthem, humbly apologizes, his words accompanied by a soft ruffle from Lila's dress as she stands nearby. The dark-haired woman, Lila, stands elegantly in her flowing light blue gown, radiating serene beauty amidst a cascade of white roses. The dark-haired woman, Lila, thanks the dark-haired man, Anthem, for the elegant dress, and he replies that he is simply glad she likes it. The dark-haired woman, Lila, remains silently observant as the dark-haired man, Anthem, stands among several uniformed men handling documents in the bustling hall. A surprised, light brown-haired subordinate asks the dark-haired man, Anthem, about the documents they are holding, while the dark-haired woman, Lila, is partially visible. The dark-haired man, Anthem, cuts off the surprised light brown-haired subordinate, abruptly declaring an end to their work for the day. The dark-haired man, Anthem, instructs his subordinate to bring urgent matters to his office or refer them to the surprised red-haired soldier, Elliot Baroque Brass, who exclaims in disbelief. The red-haired soldier, Elliot Baroque Brass, somewhat hesitantly agrees to handle the urgent matters, giving a small laugh as the dark-haired man, Anthem, watches silently. The red-haired soldier, Elliot Baroque Brass, cheerfully takes charge, directing the other uniformed men to follow him as the dark-haired man, Anthem, observes. The dark-haired woman, Lila, voices her concern to the dark-haired man, Anthem, wondering if it's truly fine to leave his duties and if problems might arise in his absence. The dark-haired woman, Lila, smiles gently at the dark-haired man, Anthem, reassuring him that if he's busy, he shouldn't worry about her, as they can always reschedule their meal. The dark-haired woman, Lila, tentatively addresses His Excellency, Anthem, who thanks her for her concern. The dark-haired man, Anthem, holds the dark-haired woman, Lila's, hand, smiling as he insists that he must handle work this way to prioritize their meal, believing it's more important. The dark-haired man, Anthem, smiles at the pensive dark-haired woman, Lila, expressing his hope that she enjoys her time today. Hands carefully place a plate of steak and a gleaming glass of wine onto the elegantly set dining table. The dark-haired man, Anthem, smiles knowingly as he holds a glass of wine at the dinner table, asking Lila if she opened her herb shop. The dark-haired woman, Lila, looks surprised by the question, then confirms that she did indeed open her herb shop. The dark-haired man, Anthem, asks the dark-haired woman, Lila, if she managed everything for her shop by herself, and she quietly confirms that she did. The dark-haired man, Anthem, holding a wine glass, remarks he understands and that it's amazing. The dark-haired woman, Lila, thinks she keeps failing and is only managing her shop because everyone helps her. Lila sits at a table, thinking she hopes Anthem doesn't stare at her too much so she can eat, as the light brown-haired man, a waiter, stands behind them and Anthem sips his wine. The dark-haired man, Anthem, reaches for a wine glass, stating his subordinates praise her shop's good reputation, believing her hard work is paying off. Anthem smiles, explaining he briefly visited her shop, found its atmosphere wonderful, and was impressed by her many rare herbs. The dark-haired man, Anthem, lists several herbs, like yum grass, rindaita, and lunar grass, asking if his identification is correct. The dark-haired woman, Lila, looking surprised and flustered, asks the dark-haired man, Anthem, how he knows so much about herbs. The dark-haired man, Anthem, explains he knows about herbs because his wife liked them and he listened to her. Anthem, seen with the light brown-haired man, a waiter, behind him, apologizes to Lila for the overly detailed technical discussion. The dark-haired man, Anthem, smiles, explaining that watching his wife passionately discuss herbs made him happy. The dark-haired woman, Lila, looks surprised and flustered, holding a glass, as the dark-haired man, Anthem, looks at her intently. The dark-haired woman, Lila, looking slightly flustered while holding a wine glass, listens as the dark-haired man, Anthem, introduces a new topic. The dark-haired man, Anthem, explains that his wife's knowledge was even useful on the battlefield, prompting the dark-haired woman, Lila, to question, on the battlefield? The dark-haired man, Anthem, explains his wife taught him about edible grasses and protein-rich roots, which were lifesavers during long battles when supply lines were cut off. The dark-haired man, Anthem, seated at the table with the dark-haired woman, Lila, tells her his wife taught him the coconut willow tree bark was good, and his subordinates liked its easy-to-obtain and delicious qualities. The dark-haired man, Anthem, smiles while describing a unique scent, then suggests they should not discuss such things during their luxurious meal. Lila agrees, musing on their previous conversation. The dark-haired woman, Lila, smiles, thinking that after 4 years, both she and the dark-haired man, Anthem, have changed in appearance and identity. Lila looks pensive, reflecting on her pleasant memories with Anthem and her past resentment, wondering if things would have been different had they met normally. The dark-haired man, Anthem, asks the dark-haired woman, Lila, if she is exhausted, and she replies she is just lost in thought. The light brown-haired man, a waiter, clears a plate, as the dark-haired woman, Lila, thanks the dark-haired man, Anthem, for an enjoyable day, which he found amusing too. Anthem, sitting at the table with a maid in the background, asks if Lila would mind spending more time with him, as he has something to show her. A grandfather clock shows the time, and the dark-haired woman, Lila, thinks there's no problem with the time, but the dark-haired man, Anthem, asks the dark-haired woman, Lila, to stay a little longer with him. The dark-haired man, Anthem, asks the dark-haired woman, Lila, to stay just a little bit longer. The dark-haired woman, Lila, dressed in an elegant gown, walks with the dark-haired man, Anthem, wondering why she was told to dress nicely for this. The dark-haired man, Anthem, extends his hand to the dark-haired woman, Lila, inviting her to take it. The dark-haired man, Anthem, touches the dark-haired woman, Lila, on the shoulder, saying, "Excuse me." The dark-haired man, Anthem, gently places a hood over the dark-haired woman, Lila's, head, warning that it's very cold, and she nervously complies. The dark-haired man, Anthem, gestures, inviting the hooded dark-haired woman, Lila, to follow him. The hooded dark-haired woman, Lila, adjusts her hood, looking surprised and overwhelmed. The dark-haired man, Anthem, and the hooded dark-haired woman, Lila, stand together, gazing at a beautiful starry sky, and he quietly says, "It's beautiful." The dark-haired man, Anthem, tells the hooded dark-haired woman, Lila, that while the sky is beautiful, something else is even more so. She asks, "Something even more beautiful?" The dark-haired man, Anthem, and the hooded dark-haired woman, Lila, stand on a balcony, and he asks her to look down. The dark-haired man, Anthem, and the hooded dark-haired woman, Lila, look down together, and she exclaims how beautiful the view is, delighting him. The hooded dark-haired woman, Lila, smiles, finding the view very nice. The dark-haired man, Anthem, and the hooded dark-haired woman, Lila, stand on the balcony. She finds the protected scenery impressive, and he jokes that his subordinates would cry tears of joy if they heard her compliment. The dark-haired woman, Lila, giggles softly, agreeing that it's an exaggeration but expressing her genuine awe, while the dark-haired man, Anthem, smiles at her. A close-up on the dark-haired woman, Lila's, eyes reveals her thought that Anthem is truly impressive as the commander of all these soldiers. The dark-haired man, Anthem, reaches for the dark-haired woman, Layla, asking if they should head back because she must be cold, and apologizes. The dark-haired woman, Lila, gently holds the dark-haired man, Anthem's hand, agreeing they should head back. The dark-haired woman, Lila, flinches and pulls her hand back, startled by the dark-haired man, Anthem's touch. The dark-haired man, Anthem, apologizes to the dark-haired woman, Lila, assuming she disliked his touch, but she quickly clarifies that isn't the case. The dark-haired woman, Lila, holding her wrist, expresses embarrassment about her hands, saying she doesn't care for them much. The dark-haired man, Anthem, looks at the dark-haired woman, Lila's hand, observing that it is so thin. The dark-haired man, Anthem, tenderly holds the dark-haired woman, Lila's, wrist, reflecting that she has given her all alone with those hands. The dark-haired man, Anthem, holds a compact, as the dark-haired woman, Lila, looks at it, wondering why he brought it again. The dark-haired man, Anthem, gently rubs the dark-haired woman, Lila's, hands with cream from the compact, and she thinks he surely loved these hands. The dark-haired man, Anthem, looks at the dark-haired woman, Lila, while gently holding her hands. The dark-haired woman, Lila, thinks it is getting late and she should head back soon, as they cannot stay together any longer. The dark-haired man, Anthem, asks the dark-haired woman, Lila, if she is heading home, and she confirms, stating she cannot stay for long. The dark-haired man, Anthem, tells the hooded dark-haired woman, Lila, she can stay as long as she wants, but she replies that she has early work and must leave. The hooded dark-haired woman, Lila, thanks the dark-haired man, Anthem, for the dress and promises to return it in a couple of days. The hooded dark-haired woman, Lila, turns to the dark-haired man, Anthem, asking him not to say such things in the future as she can't repay him. The hooded dark-haired woman, Lila, thanks the dark-haired man, Anthem, once again and tells him she will leave now as he doesn't need to see her off. The hooded dark-haired woman, Lila, looks downcast as she walks away, gently touching the necklace around her neck. The dark-haired man, Anthem, stands pensive, his gaze distant. The hooded dark-haired woman, Lila, walks away with a sad expression, while the blonde-haired maid, Gisela Azriel, watches her go and the dark-haired man, Anthem, stands in the background. The blonde-haired maid, Gisela Azriel, addresses the dark-haired man, Anthem, from behind, as he thinks that Lila hasn't escaped yet. The dark-haired man, Anthem, instructs the blonde-haired maid, Gisela Azriel, to prepare a carriage for Lila and ensure she receives a proper escort. The blonde-haired maid, Gisela Azriel, looking surprised, apologizes for overstepping but asks the dark-haired man, Anthem, if he truly isn't going to chase after Lila. The dark-haired man, Anthem, intensely thinks about running after Lila and holding her, wishing he had asked her to stay a little longer, as a flashback shows him embracing her. The dark-haired man, Anthem, reflects on Lyria being more wary than before, wondering about the 4 years he missed and how the thought tightens his chest. A flashback showing him with a distressed Lyria. The blonde-haired maid, Gisela Azriel, asks the dark-haired man, Anthem, if he is all right, and he dismisses it as nothing, stating he is returning to the office. The dark-haired man, Anthem, walks up the stairs as the blonde-haired maid, Gisela Azrael, asks if he plans to work until midnight. The dark-haired man, Anthem, confirms he will work, explaining that he wouldn't be able to sleep anyway. The blonde-haired maid, Gisela Azrael, bows to the dark-haired man, Anthem, taking her leave for the day. The dark-haired man, Anthem, looks thoughtfully into the distance as the blonde-haired maid, Gisela Azrael, walks away in the background. A young woman with long dark hair, wearing a white gown, looks back over her shoulder, her expression soft. The dark-haired man, Anthem, gazes intently, thinking that Lila has become dazzlingly beautiful, an image of her hooded face overlapping. The dark-haired man, Anthem, reflects on his happiness at finally finding the girl he's searched for 4 years, but acknowledges he's probably the only one who feels such excitement. The dark-haired man, Anthem, wonders if Lyria walked away in a similar manner back then. The dark-haired man, Anthem, looks pensive, recalling that night. The beautiful, bright full moon shines in a quiet, starry night sky. A narrative frame marks the timing as the day after the dinner party, showing a large house surrounded by trees. A dark-haired man in a dark suit sits at a grand desk, meticulously reviewing papers. A hand gestures over documents detailing a series of kidnappings by experienced criminals and the use of magical tools. A document is displayed among books and glowing artifacts, revealing Viscount Theodoric Gold, a minor noble, as a possible accomplice. The dark-haired man reads the report, concluding that Viscount Theodoric Gold is the man he's always suspected of shady dealings. A hand slams down on the desk with a strong impact, emphasizing the gravity of the information. The dark-haired man, looking concerned, thinks about magical tools and Viscount Gold, noting that these tools are dangerous and, not content with illegal trade, the Viscount has resorted to kidnapping. A hand opens a decorative wooden desk drawer, revealing papers inside. The dark-haired man, holding papers, looks away with a soft smile, thinking he already wants to see her again. The dark-haired man holds papers to his chest, pondering if he could somehow make time to visit. From outside his office, a voice requests entry, stating a report is ready, to which His Excellency responds with a calm, "Come in." A red-haired soldier enters the office, announcing he has a report on the matter. His Excellency, holding papers, looks at the red-haired soldier, questioning if there is a problem. The red-haired soldier, pointing towards the stacks of documents, reminds His Excellency that he still has a mountain of paperwork to complete today. A hand presents a report confirming that a faction of kidnappers ambushed them, just as His Excellency had suspected. His Excellency, holding the report, reflects that the ambush likely occurred after the kidnappers received information, before they had grasped any details themselves. His Excellency inquires about another matter, and the red-haired soldier reports multiple suspicious figures wandering near Ms. Mulberry's residence, prompting His Excellency to acknowledge this. His Excellency looks troubled, thinking he wants to protect Lyria immediately, but fears she would be wary of him and unwilling to follow, imagining a distressed, dark-haired woman in a white hood beside him. The red-haired soldier tentatively asks His Excellency to hear his suggestion without anger, to which His Excellency agrees. The red-haired soldier, looking uncertain, suggests dealing with Ms. Mulberry by scolding or something like that. His Excellency's golden eye narrows intensely as the red-haired soldier asks, "Huh?" in confusion at his silent reaction. The red-haired soldier, looking startled, reminds His Excellency he requested he not get angry, then explains that Ms. Mulberry seems overly cautious around him. The red-haired soldier stresses that Ms. Mulberry's wariness makes protecting her difficult. The red-haired soldier reports that Ms. Mulberry looked like she was running away last night, suggesting they need to consider another protection method, and His Excellency asks who told him that. The red-haired soldier recalls that Gisela told him, then apologizes for her unnecessary remarks, while His Excellency lets out a sigh. The red-haired soldier proposes that if they cannot protect Ms. Mulberry, they should allow her to be captured by the criminals to pinpoint their hideout. His Excellency contemplates the red-haired soldier's idea, thoughtfully rubbing his chin. His Excellency firmly rejects the dangerous plan of letting Ms. Mulberry be captured, proposing to send guerrillas into the hideout to protect her and storm it once discovered, but then reconsiders, stating it won't work. His Excellency believes that even if they find the hideout, rescuing Ms. Mulberry would be complicated, as criminals might escape with her. The red-haired soldier suggests tracing magical tools in advance to avoid problems, then emphasizes that while Ms. Mulberry is important to His Excellency, his personal feelings shouldn't cloud his duty. The red-haired soldier vehemently reminds His Excellency, a praised battle demon, that it is wrong to let personal feelings interfere with his duty. Two hands move dynamically towards each other with great speed. The red-haired soldier emphasizes not sacrificing many civilians for one woman, but the dark-haired His Excellency acknowledges the argument, stating it must be an absolute last resort. His Excellency, with a determined expression, instructs the red-haired soldier to first persuade her. The red-haired soldier expresses surprise at His Excellency's unusual hesitation, noting he normally makes decisions without thought. The red-haired soldier questions who Ms. Mulberry is, and His Excellency remains silent. The red-haired soldier apologizes for prying, explaining that His Excellency has never shown such interest in a woman before, prompting his curiosity. The red-haired soldier playfully asks if His Excellency has a preference for women like Ms. Mulberry, to which His Excellency lets out a sigh. His Excellency reveals that Ms. Mulberry is his wife, clarifying why he cares so deeply for her. A chibi version of the red-haired soldier comically exclaims that he understands, repeating, "Wife, huh?" and processing the revelation. A chibi red-haired man shouts in shock, startling the light brown-haired man and prompting a chibi His Excellency to sternly tell him to be quiet as the door shakes. The red-haired soldier, leaning on the desk in shock, identifies Ms. Mulberry as General Kaizak's daughter, Lady Lyria, which His Excellency confirms. The red-haired soldier stares in disbelief, unable to believe they would meet again after all this time. The red-haired soldier smiles, noting His Excellency finally found her, and His Excellency confirms, then states he doesn't want Lyria in any danger now that they are reunited. His Excellency places his hands on documents, declaring that the enemy will be defeated regardless of a decoy operation, but they will need time to prepare, which the red-haired soldier acknowledges. His Excellency instructs the red-haired soldier to make arrangements for Lyria, who is still being targeted, and the soldier quickly understands. His Excellency contemplates how to persuade Lyria, balancing his desire to protect her with the need to consider her feelings. His Excellency looks down, pensive and troubled by his thoughts. Lila, gathering plants in the forest, expresses surprise that it has already gotten dark and decides she should head home soon. Lila's hands gently rest on her green dress as she makes a soft rustle, preparing to move. Lila walks through the forest, reflecting on her anxiety since the dinner party and the absence of Mr. Anthem. Lila's face shows a deep concern, her eyes wide with worry. Lila is startled as a white rabbit scurries past her, causing her to flinch while carrying her basket through the forest. Lila, still startled, looks around and realizes it was only a rabbit. Lila looks distressed, recalling vague warnings about the area becoming dangerous due to kidnappings, and remembers something strange. Lila, unaware she is being watched by two hooded figures, urges herself to head home quickly, as staying alone in the forest is too dangerous. Lila's thoughts emphasize the urgency of getting home, reiterating the danger of remaining alone in the forest for too long. Lila, feeling anxious, despises the uncertain times, worries no one would notice if something happened to her, and resolves to leave a note and inform Ronan as a precaution. Lila suddenly looks over her shoulder, startled by a rustle, and questions if someone is there. Lila flees frantically through the forest, her expression panicked and fearful. Lila gasps in fear, remembering earlier warnings about the area being noisy, and realizes she might be facing a kidnapper. Lila dashes away, her fear driving her flight. Lila collapses in distress and fear as His Excellency dramatically arrives on horseback, urgently calling out, "Lila and Mulberry!" His Excellency, with an urgent, worried expression, asks Lila if she is okay and injured, as she looks up at him with surprise and tears in her eyes. His Excellency swiftly dismounts from his dark horse, his polished shoes touching the grass. His Excellency gently tells Lila he is glad she is safe, while Lila looks at him with confusion, asking why he is there. His Excellency explains he heard she went into the forest and didn't come back, as he gently touches her arm, leaving Lila confused. His Excellency embraces Lila tightly, expressing immense relief that nothing happened to her. Lila, embraced by His Excellency, looks apologetic and tells him she is sorry for making him worry. His Excellency reassures Lila that it's okay now, comforting her with a kiss on her forehead and thanking her for being safe, acknowledging his relief at being there. Lila, still embraced, looks up at His Excellency with concerned eyes, even amidst the relief. Lila, looking slightly flustered but reassured, tells His Excellency that his presence is comforting. Lila internally questions the terrifying presence she felt earlier, a lingering thought despite her immediate safety. His Excellency suggests they go home and he will see her off, to which Lila quietly agrees. A man on a dark horse, the light brown-haired man, approaches and calls out to His Excellency. The light brown-haired man on horseback expresses worry that His Excellency went alone and asks if he is injured, while Lila stands beside His Excellency. His Excellency, looking at Lila, instructs the light brown-haired man to check the surrounding area for any lingering suspicious presence, then states he will escort Lila himself. His Excellency suggests they go together, looking at Lila with a gentle smile, and she agrees. His Excellency lifts Lila onto the dark horse, causing her to exclaim in surprise and fluster. His Excellency is now seated behind Lila on the horse, holding her securely and instructing her to hold on properly as they begin to move. His Excellency warns Lila to hold on tightly to avoid falling, and she acknowledges his advice as the horse clip-clops away. The dark-haired woman, Lila, looks flushed and slightly flustered, while the dark-haired man, Anthem, smiles gently. As they ride, the dark-haired man, Anthem, asks the dark-haired woman, Lila, what she was doing in the forest so late, and she replies she was just gathering medicinal herbs. The dark-haired man, Anthem, gently advises the dark-haired woman, Lila, to take better care of herself, stressing that it would be too late if something happened, and she agrees to be careful. The dark-haired man, Anthem, instructs the dark-haired woman, Lila, that from now on she must have someone accompany her to the forest, as it is dangerous to go alone. The dark-haired woman, Lila, agrees but then requests that the dark-haired man, Anthem, ask Ronan to accompany her. The dark-haired woman, Lila, reflects internally that she has no one else to rely on as she holds her hand. The dark-haired man, Anthem, assures the dark-haired woman, Lila, that he is there, but she, startled, asks if he isn't busy and says she can't ask him for such a thing. The dark-haired man, Anthem, tells the dark-haired woman, Lila, not to worry, insisting she can rely on him for anything, though she still hesitates. The dark-haired woman, Lila, acknowledges Anthem's words, but asks him to step back a little, as his hands are close to hers. The dark-haired man, Anthem, looks down at the dark-haired woman, Lila, with a subtle smile. The dark-haired woman, Lila, looks downcast, lost in thought. A memory or internal thought shows a dark-haired man and a white-haired woman, Laria, with text reflecting that hope for something like this is useless. The dark-haired man, Anthem, and the dark-haired woman, Lila, ride the dark horse together through a sparkling, enchanting forest. Upon arriving, the dark-haired woman, Lila, thanks the dark-haired man, Anthem, for seeing her off, to which he simply responds, "No." The dark-haired man, Anthem, looks thoughtful and troubled, remaining silent. The dark-haired woman, Lila, questions the dark-haired man, Anthem, and then suggests they part ways. As the dark-haired woman, Lila, begins to walk away, the dark-haired man, Anthem, calls out to her. The dark-haired man, Anthem, tells the dark-haired woman, Lila, that he feels it is dangerous to leave her alone tonight and she should stay. The dark-haired man, Anthem, with a stern expression, asks the dark-haired woman, Lila, to come with him to the garrison. The dark-haired woman, Lila, apologetically refuses the dark-haired man, Anthem's, request, explaining she needs to open her shop early, while he warns her he doesn't mean to frighten her. The dark-haired man, Anthem, directly tells the dark-haired woman, Lila, that she is currently a target for kidnapping. The dark-haired woman, Lila, acknowledges the danger but insists she still cannot go with him. The dark-haired woman, Lila, respectfully tells the dark-haired man, Anthem, that she is not the only one in danger. The dark-haired woman, Lila, asserts that if he takes her to the garrison, it would be unfair not to take all the other women in town, while Anthem questions her, reminding her she was just attacked. The dark-haired man, Anthem, with a frustrated expression, emphasizes that the dark-haired woman, Lila, is the one in the most danger in town right now. The dark-haired man, Anthem, passionately argues that if something happens at her secluded house, it will be too late, urging the dark-haired woman, Lila, to come to the garrison for her protection. The dark-haired man, Anthem, takes the dark-haired woman, Lila's hand, pleading with her to let him protect her as he is worried about her. The dark-haired woman, Lila, gently pulls her hand away, apologizing and stating she cannot accept such special treatment, startling Anthem. The dark-haired woman, Lila, looks down, apologizing again for causing the dark-haired man, Anthem, to worry. The dark-haired woman, Lila, looks up with a determined expression, thanking the dark-haired man, Anthem, for his concern. The dark-haired man, Anthem, embraces the dark-haired woman, Lila, swearing to protect her this time, and asking her again to come with him. The dark-haired man, Anthem, holds the dark-haired woman, Lila, tightly, expressing his strong desire for her not to experience anything terrifying again. The dark-haired woman, Lila, thinks she wishes she could rely on him too, as he holds her close. The dark-haired woman, Lila, apologetically tells the dark-haired man, Anthem, that she still cannot go. The dark-haired man, Anthem, looks away with a pained expression, stating he guesses the dark-haired woman, Lila, doesn't need him after all. The dark-haired man, Anthem, walks away from the horse looking visibly upset, while the dark-haired woman, Lila, watches him from behind. The dark-haired woman, Lila, looks downcast, tears welling in her eyes, as she appears distressed. The dark-haired man, Anthem, rides away on his dark horse, leaving the scene with a serious expression. The dark-haired man, Anthem, looks back with a determined and intense expression. A close-up on the dark-haired woman, Lila's eyes reveals her surprised and slightly flushed expression. The dark-haired man, Anthem, rides away on his horse, leaving the dark-haired woman, Lila, standing alone outside her home. The dark-haired woman, Lila, stands alone with a sad and pensive expression, her long hair blowing in the wind. Hands are shown striking a match, creating a small flame. The lit matchstick burns brightly amidst a small fire, suggesting it's been used to start one. The dark-haired woman, Lila, sits by a fire, reflecting that she didn't feel the cold at all when she was with him. A close-up on the dark-haired woman, Lila's eye shows the reflection of the warm fire within it, indicating her deep thoughts. The dark-haired woman, Lila, realizes she isn't cold but lonely, questioning why she has suddenly become so weak after living strongly on her own for so long. The dark-haired woman, Lila, reflects that she had unknowingly opened her heart to his kindness, even though she knew she shouldn't, and had been pretending not to notice it for too long. The dark-haired woman, Lila, thinks it's too late, she's made him angry, and this is truly the end, accepting that it's best for them to go their separate ways, which is something she should be happy about as she pours water. As the dark-haired woman, Lila, continues to pour water, she tearfully questions why she is crying, despite believing their separation is for the best. The dark-haired woman, Lila, crouches on the floor beside a table, crying and thinking she wishes to see him. The dark-haired woman, Lila, looks down with tears streaming from her eyes, her face filled with sorrow. A roaring fire burns brightly in a hearth, casting a warm glow. The dark-haired woman, Lila, sits on a chair, wrapped in a shawl by the crackling fire, looking contemplative. The dark-haired woman, Lila, rises from her chair, and a pan clatters to the floor in a lower panel, as if startled. The dark-haired woman, Lila, sleeps peacefully in her chair, covered by a shawl in the quiet room. The dark-haired woman, Lila, stirs in her sleep with a soft NGH, then her eyes suddenly snaps open in alarm. The dark-haired woman, Lila, pushes off her chair, which falls over with a clatter, as she fearfully questions if someone is there. The dark-haired woman, Lila, looks around warily, her hair swirling, then turns sharply with wide, alarmed eyes at something unseen. The dark-haired woman, Lila's eyes are wide with shock and fear, her expression terrified. The dark-haired woman, Lila, looks up in surprise at an unseen presence, then her mouth is suddenly covered by a gloved hand. The dark-haired woman, Lila, struggles as three masked, hooded figures grab her, pulling her away. A tea kettle and cups are violently knocked off a table, crashing to the floor. The shattered pieces of a teapot and cups lie scattered across the floor, reflecting light in the dim room.